We are Tailgate Talk. Welcome to the show. I'm Matt Thomas. With me, as always, we got Kyle Winnie, Trent Williams, Kyle Schumann. Another week, another game where we take care of little brother. Penn State puts down Rutgers 55-10. We are now 9-2, getting ready to move on to the last game of the year. Guys, what do we think about this?
At the beginning of the game, we looked Iowa-esque, as a lot of people said. We had a lot of defensive scores and no offense, but then Penn State turned around and was like, oh, wait, we can beat the crap out of this team, and decided to do some good offense in the second quarter into the second half. So it's a good game all around.
Yeah, I think people were panicking a little too early with the slow start. You have one bad quarter and fans are up in arms. Like, people just live to be miserable. It drives me nuts. There's 4 quarters for a reason.
Agreed.
Don't knock it till you try it.
I was gonna say 4 quarters and 3 phases. Definitely some highlights all around.
Yeah, people, it's just like it's so early in the game. Like, let the game play out a little. My gosh.
But that was like the vibe around college football all day yesterday. Like, everyone, like, at least we only sleptwalked through a quarter. Everyone, all these top teams were just sleepwalking the entire game. So
yeah, I mean, you could argue Penn State put the best performance together of any top 15 team yesterday. In fact, I don't think it's an argument. In fact, I was listening to a couple podcasts that were saying, like, Penn State's really the only top 15 that took care of business against a somewhat decent opponent. I mean, because the SEC does that thing this time of year where they play
Alabama,
garbage, like
Alabama and Austin PV, whatever the hell that school's name is.
Austin PA, yeah. So it's like, so you had some opponents that played really bad teams in the SEC, but I mean, Georgia struggled against Kentucky 16-6. They won. We know Ohio State struggled against Maryland.
Georgia Tech beat North Carolina.
I'm walking through them. Michigan struggled to beat Illinois 19-17. TCU squeezed out a tight one against Baylor 29-28. Tennessee got demolished by South Carolina. We'll probably talk about that one. LSU took care of business, but they played UAB, and that one was ugly early, so you can't even argue that. They took care of business. USC squeaked out against UCLA 48-45. Alabama won by 34, but again, they played Austin PA, so nothing impressive there. Clemson beat Miami pretty solidly 40-10, so that was another good performance. But and then Oregon beat Utah 20-17, so Utah went down, and then Penn State took care of Rutgers 55-10. Georgia Tech destroyed North Carolina, not really 21-17, but it felt like it because Georgia Tech is so bad. And then I'll just say the other big one is Arkansas beating Ole Miss. So you look at that top 15, and we stress this every week. It's so hard to win in college football. So when we go out there and take care of business, just be happy. Like, just be happy. It's not easy.
You sure you don't want to go through all 131 FBS teams? I mean,
now Matt knows how people feel on his end of things. That's how we feel every episode when you're talking.
Well, I supply a little value. I supply a little value.
Now he sees the other side of it.
I keep up the good pace. But
we had to bully him in his stats off this podcast. So we can put them on another news outlet. So
no, but it's just the point is, like, you have. I mean, we destroyed Maryland, right? And we were just dominant against Maryland. And then Maryland's 2 best games of the season. They put up a really good fight against Michigan and then again against Ohio State. And those are the things where when we say, like, this team is playing really good football right now, we are. Even though we're not playing great opponents, we're beating them in really strong fashion.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's this entire month of November. Now, granted, it's Indiana, Maryland, and Rutgers, but you can look at especially Indiana and yesterday against Rutgers where you feel like, we're not playing that great. It's kind of sloppy. It's kind of ugly. And then you look at the score and it's 38-10 in the third quarter. Like, in years past, those are games where we don't lose, but we're winning by maybe like 14 points, 17 points, something like that. You're not blowing the doors off of teams. And it's just, it's special because and we can get into this as we talk a little bit more. Most of the production is coming from underclassmen. So it's not like this is a capstone for a veteran-led group. This is the start of something. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting yesterday how, like, going like you said, Matt, like, we didn't play the greatest in the first half, but then you look at the scoreboard, we're almost covering by halftime. We're favored by 20. We're up 18 points at halftime. So, like, sleepwalk through the first quarter and then just step on their throats going forward after that. So
yeah, so let's get into this a little bit. I mean, again, defense cut and dry, pretty like they won the game. Only gave up 10 points, generated 14 of their own. We could have just stopped right there, and that would have been it. It's third week in a row where they only allowed 200. They allowed less than 200 yards, I should say. 15 tackles for loss. That was almost a program record. 4 sacks. Like, just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Any thoughts on the defense?
I mean, they took care of business again. Realistically, I mean, they also had the pick 6 that was called back with a stupid penalty. I mean, that would have been a third defensive touchdown. To start the second half there, I think one of the biggest plays of the game that sort of went unnoticed was that huge slant play they had across the middle. And I think it was Kalen King that tracked the guy. It was like at first glance, it looked like he was going to score. Kalen King tracked him down, didn't give up. And that led to the 70-yard scoop and score later on. So that's the type of hustle you like to see. Those plays like that where it really is game changing.
I think on that play too, Trent, like, yeah, it was a big play, but it was also the perfect play against our defense. I think we had like a cornerback blitz on that play. So it was like, I think we had the safety covering that slant route. So it was like it was a perfect play against our defense. So sometimes you just got to chalk it up like, oh, they beat us that play.
Yeah. And you're going to have those plays. I mean, realistically, the 7 points Rutgers gathered was really a fault of our special teams. I mean, that our defense, didn't. And then our defense held up again on the Singleton fumble. That didn't result in any points, resulted in a missed field goal there. So there was no hurt. You can't say enough about our defense each week. It is just, and that's why, like, when that spread came out and we were talking about the spread, it's just, I don't see how we're not covering that spread against Rutgers with the way our defense is not going to give up 20 points to a team like Rutgers. It's just not going to happen.
And we made the point last week that it just seems like our defense under Manny Diaz is just tackling better. We're just all swarming all 11 guys. It just seems like, even if they get like a 5-yard slant route or a screen or something, they're not getting anything more than that. Obviously, we're talking about the long slant route, but like, just seems like they're not getting any of these big chunk plays against us either. So,
and I'm not sure, Kyle, to that, if it's more the buy-in or if it's just the overall understanding. I know they even talked about in the game, and just the rotations that we have of keeping guys fresh is definitely phenomenal, but then getting them the experience as well in this defense, which I think is a huge key into us progressing forward, but even in these last couple games.
I know we made this point last week. I think it's the young guys understanding Manny Diaz defense. Like, Manny Diaz runs our secondary is we put on an island versus front seven is going to be like attacking all that stuff, and we have a bunch of young guys learning this new defense. It takes time, and so once it gets implemented, it's showing out right now. Our talent's showing out on it.
Playing Indiana, Maryland, and Rutgers doesn't hurt either. But
that's true too.
I know, Matt. You say that, and it's easy to say those teams.
I'm just
I read through that list of top 15, and the majority of those teams did not play good opponents this week.
And we said the same thing,
and struggled.
3.5-ish quarters against Ohio State, our defense looked just as good. So against a great offense.
Yeah, no, I'm not discounting it. They're playing very, very good football. I'm just saying it also helps.
The opponent doesn't help. Like, when we're playing a bad opponent, it doesn't help from a narrative perspective of us being a really solid football team. But at the end of the day, this is something new, I feel like, for us under this James Franklin era, where it's like, I feel so confident going into these games where, like, I'm not just going in like, I think we're going to win. I feel like we're going to go in there and blow these teams out each week. And that we talked about this, but beating the teams on your schedule that you should, we haven't done that every year. I mean, not to jinx it, we still have 1 game left in this regular season, honestly, it's the game. We'll get into that. It's the game I've been most scared of for a while now.
Yeah, we're probably going below it. Final thoughts on the defense. Curtis Jacobs was back. Good performance coming back from that game. 5 total tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And now I just checked as I was pulling some stuff for Michigan State. We are 5th in the nation with 88 total tackle for loss. So the style of aggressive play is
the
just
Big Ten.
Did you have a final stat on that at the end of the game? I heard at one point they said, I think 14. It sounded
it was 15.
So they finished off with 15.
I think the program record's 16. So they're pretty close.
I don't know about you guys, but the past 3 games, it just seems like Abdul Carter is just always in the backfield. I think he had another 2 tackles for losses this game. It just seems like he's always just in the backfield. He may not be making the play, but he's just disruptive.
He's a disturbance, yeah.
He's been fantastic, and tell you who's
Oh,
coming
and
along
he
strong.
and he had a sack. I forgot to mention that.
Kobe King is playing well lately. Also, he's been coming on strong. I think the linebacker play in general has been a big part of this defense's improvement.
Yep. Kobe King led the team in total tackles yesterday. Again, only 6 tackles, so the wealth is just being spread around. So it's not, you can't just point to a handful of players that are doing it. It's everybody. But all right, let's take this to the flip side. The offense, I mean, they scored, would take away 21 points. They still scored 30 some points on their own right. But I think honestly, for an offense that is very, very young, the struggles that they had early on will go a long way, I think. We've been talking a lot about this offensive line and how great they've been playing with this patchwork system, and then they kind of showed it a little bit early on. You had the 2 sacks, you had trouble establishing the line of scrimmage, and then that was just a non-factor from the second quarter on.
Yeah, it definitely felt better as we went along. That first quarter there, it seemed like, I think at one point Clifford got touched on 5 straight plays. I will say Clifford, I think, did a decent job mitigating it this week. He had some runs where, I mean, obviously he had some times where you just got to get rid of the ball and he didn't, but he also did a good job of getting out of the pocket with his feet and making some plays with his feet. So that's good to see. Drew, when he came in, also ran him a lot of quarterback runs this week by design by both quarterbacks in the game. It worked. I feel like we don't always do the best with it. Seemed to work well this week.
I think also talking about the O-line, I know Rutgers defense in the first half against Michigan gave their O-line a little bit of fits at times, and Michigan's O-line's in contention for wherever that award is for the best O-line in college football. So I think it was expected. I think they did some good planning on it for us, but obviously our talent picked up, even though we had a patchwork O-line, like we keep saying.
Do your homework, Coco. Find the name of the award before you bring it into this forum.
Look at it right here.
Katron Allen bounces back from, another. We're talking about, is Nick Singleton going to be the guy? Only 117 yards on 11 carries. So go ahead.
Sorry, with that though, real quick, I know we talked last week about, we saw Singleton kind of lowering the shoulder and running through guys to a degree, which was impressive. And then this week I was watching Allen, and there was games where he hit a cut here and there, and that was great, but he was kind of running through guys. In this game, he had multiple runs where he hit like multiple cuts in one run, and it was just impressive to see that, because again, I was thinking, I mean, at least me, that's more Singleton style, and you're kind of starting to see them share this, I don't know, running style almost, where they're becoming one, and they're basically becoming the same back to a degree. So it's exciting to see it.
Meta.
What I was thinking though, when he is like, the difference between what you're saying is, I think Katron's cuts are to a hole, right? It's more with a vision where he sees a hole and cuts into it. Where earlier in the season, not now, but earlier, Singleton was trying to make cuts to places there weren't holes. He was trying to make something out of nothing, where Katron's making a purposeful cut to an open hole. And I think that's the big difference between it.
Even just the open field cuts though, like he had one run where he hits a cut, right? And then he hits another one. And that was pretty impressive just to see that kind of ability from him. But I agree with you early on for sure.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I love how when either one of them scores, it seems like the other one is the first person on the field to celebrate with them after a touchdown. I mean, it doesn't seem like it feels like they're each other's like biggest fans. I have zero worries about like a transfer portal issue between either of them, like because they're sharing carries. They just seem like one unit.
I think I saw after the game, they're like, I think they're either tied, or I think Nick has one more carry than Katron, I believe, or it's the other way. But I think
Katron has 3 more.
Yeah, it's a couple more.
I thought I was on ESPN that was one more.
Yeah, it's a couple more, but it's really close. To be this point in the season, it's pretty much evenly split.
Yeah.
They are the first freshman duo in Big Ten history with over 700 yards each. So I'm sure Nick is probably around 900 now. He's
60.
Yeah, and then Katron's probably close to 800 if he's not over now. So I mean, we'll see over the next 2 games. We might have a chance to get one, if not both, over that 1,000-yard mark. That'd be pretty special.
Your little factoid: the best O-line award is a Joe Moore award. That's the best O-line. So there you go.
I knew it began with an F.
Yeah, give me more.
And then even the passing game too. Like honestly, neither quarterback looked that great. I don't think,
No.
throwing the ball wise, but you still had, 200 total yards, almost 199. The thing that stood out to me, you had 10 different guys catch the ball, and only two of them, Strange and Tinsley, are upperclassmen. Everyone else was at sophomore level of eligibility or below. So you're just going into this youth movement kind of thing. Like it's just, it is a special thing that we got going on right now.
Another Clifford to Clifford connection in the second half.
Mitchell Tinsley had a nice game with Parker Washington being out. He stepped up, sort of became that wide receiver one, which what we like to see. We're recording a little earlier in the week with the Thanksgiving chaos week coming up. But we're not going to get to Franklin's press conference right now as we're recording. But it seems like Parker Washington's definitively done for the season. After his post game, he pretty much just said on Tuesday he'll address it, but everything points to he's done for the season.
So it's just it's unfortunate, but it's a chance for some of these younger guys to stand up. I think Trey Wallace had a nice game. He did well. He had 3 receptions, 49 yards. He was third, I think, in total yards. So it's just an opportunity.
Yeah. Maybe we can do a segment on this after the Michigan State game. But do you guys think that Parker Washington is going to come back next year, or do you think he's going to go pro after this year?
Oh, well, thanks for taking my last call.
Oh,
that was gonna be my last call too in a broader
it looks
sense.
Looks like we saved last
well,
call.
I think we don't give answers now, but I think it'll be nice to do a segment like later in the year, see who we think is going to go pro or not, or come back. So
before we get into more general, I do want to say that Matt jinxed us a couple times, 1st and goal inside the red zone. We couldn't get it in the end zone. That I don't want to pick too much in a dominant victory like that, but I mean, we 2 times it was first. We had 1st and goal from the 6, couldn't get in. Had to take a field goal. 1st and goal from the 9, couldn't get in. Drew Allard did get it in, but on 4th down. So we needed a 4th down to get it in the end zone there.
I didn't say touchdowns. I just said we were going to score. So
yeah,
I didn't
jinx
anything.
So again, not trying to nitpick, but when we are in that situation, 1st and goal, especially from with around that 5-yard line, you definitely got to get in there within 3 plays. A couple of them were just broken plays where it's just the play had no shot. It felt like that on that handoff to Strange, on that play that Clifford threw out to Singleton on the flat where he was just putting him out into the zone of death. There was six Rutgers defenders. Honestly, just throw that over his head rather than getting him destroyed, which is what happened. And then a couple of quarterback designs as well, designed runs that Drew Aller, I don't know about you guys running. He just looks uncomfortable running. He just looks looks slow.
Looks like a baby deer.
He finishes every run with a big grin on his face, though. If you haven't seen that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No matter how hard the hit, you're like, oh man, he got rocked and he's up, just a big grin.
Yeah.
It's because he knows he's making Coco happy. That's why.
Yeah.
His number 1 fan. I mean, if I'm going
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say, you could talk about the offense, but we can't leave this Rutgers segment without talking about special teams.
That's where I was going. If I was going to nitpick anything, it'd probably be the wild roller coaster that was special teams yesterday, especially punting. Don't know what happened with Barney, but, he didn't have the best day, 39-yard average. They bring in Alex Paqueta, a okay punt, and then a bobbled snap that we got bailed out with a penalty. They bring back in, Barney. You have the bright spot in the 100-yard touchdown return, which was very cool to see. But then, you give it right back up with a 52-yard return. It was just a up and down kind of day for the special teams.
Don't forget the kickoff that hit the pylon.
Oh yeah,
throw that in there. I do think one of the biggest plays of the game was that dropped. I don't even know what you want to call the punt. It wasn't dropped. It was just he just threw it forward. It was the strangest thing ever. But we did. Go ahead.
So the penalty was offsides, right?
Offsides,
so I think it was they went offsides. Some of our guys started, and then it was a snap when Paqueta wasn't ready for it, and I think that was probably what.
But he caught it, and then, he had possession of it before it was the strangest thing. But yeah, that was at that point the game was well within hand. It was not a blowout game or anything like that. That turnover there, and they go down and get points. I think, are we losing at that point? It might. I don't know if it's a 1-score game, but it's a close game. I remember that much.
I think that was drive where Warren caught the touchdown pass. So I think at that point we were up, but still, yeah, it was a one-score game at the point.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, so huge bailout there.
For the for the return, were you guys surprised to see Singleton back there with Allen? I know we talked early in the year and you guys thought, basically them being the only scholarship running backs we had, that they wouldn't put them both back there, and then they kind of go back to it.
Yeah, I mean, we had the lengthy discussion about this earlier. I still think you got to put your most talented person back there. I mean, it leads to stuff like that, right? Our offense wasn't moving the ball early on. That spark, I mean, you got 7 points there when we needed it.
And I'm of the opinion you can get injured doing anything. Any play can happen, and any weird cut, like we saw the Hendon Hooker for Tennessee tears ACL. He's probably going to be probably almost win the Heisman this year. But anybody can get hurt any play. So I think like Trent said, give your guy the best. Put the ball in the best guy's hands to make a play.
The only reason I
know that
asked
from experience.
Yeah, torn ACL suck.
You get hurt on any play.
The only reason I asked, because I almost felt that back in that Michigan game, Nick did a sloppy job on kick return. I mean, he muffed a couple, at least one. So I figured that's more of why they had him out. So maybe it was just a need to make plays like you're suggesting. He's a playmaker for sure, and giving him that opportunity to try it again.
Maybe all those fair catches and jump cuts during the season, but then you have like a big play against Rutgers that like jump sparks the game a bit. So it's
I don't disagree.
As it is.
Yeah, I think overall we do a more cautious job on special teams, but I think especially kickoffs, we try to take advantage of some advantage. What am I trying to say? Try to take advantage of some exploits, and I think we did. So, all right, I just kind of botched that. So let's just move on to Michigan State. All right, so they are 5-6. Wins against Western Michigan, Akron, Wisconsin, Illinois, Rutgers. Losses: Washington, Minnesota, Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana. They're 49th in the FPI. Honestly, I have no idea how the hell they're 49th in FPI. Like, they have struggled this year mightily. It's the last 2 weeks. It's kind of funny where you kind of just have a sense of where these teams are. Like Rutgers, when you're going to look up anything on Rutgers and stats, you're always going to the third page. Like, they're not going to be in the top 100 of pretty much anything. This time it's like, okay, you can go to the second page. You might get into the first page. Doesn't happen too often, but with Michigan State, or you're going to the third. So they're just kind of like a solid like 50 to 100 level team. But yeah, where we want to kick off this discussion. Oh, Mel Tucker 1-1 in 2 years at Penn State.
I think
that was a really quick transition from Rutgers. I mean, we blinked and we're in Michigan State. Two more things I want to quick point out. Franklin earned his 100th career victory this weekend.
Good job, Jay. Yeah.
And then that was the 16th straight time we've beaten Rutgers. 16 straight. That's impressive. I don't care who it is.
I haven't lost to them in our lifetime, but I don't care anymore because it's on the Michigan State. 1-0.
We've been on Michigan State for the past 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah, 1-0.
All right. Kyle threw this out there with Michigan State that they still lead the series. It's a very close series, 17 wins to their 18 wins and one tie in there. We've struggled with Michigan State as of late, so I do think this is one for a while now that I've been pointing out, saying like, I'm worried about this one. I know you guys haven't been. Like, you guys earlier in the season were all pointing to Maryland as the biggest test left. This to me has been the biggest test. At the beginning of the year, I picked us to lose this game. I also thought Michigan State was going to be a top 20 team, and they fell off a bit. I think we're going to win, but I think like kind of like us and Rutgers, we just handle Rutgers every single year. Past few years, Michigan State's just had our number. The past past 5 years, it feels like.
Can you imagine how big this game would be if Michigan State would have actually been good this year? Like, yeah, the chance for 10 wins, like that would have been so cool. But
we play for the world's ugliest trophy.
I mean, Michigan State is still they're still a talented team. Obviously, the results this season have been really poor, but there's been 11 games they've sucked. The 12th game will be the one they put it together, and it just so happens to be against us. It's not a game we could just walk in there. Rutgers, we are way more talented than. Maryland, we are way more talented than. Michigan State, we are more talented than, but the talent gap is much, much closer than the teams we played these past few weeks.
Yeah, you can't afford to get sloppy, and that's actually one of the things that I picked out when I was looking and thinking through stuff. Like we have done a good job this year, I think, of handling emotions. You can argue Michigan game, not really. I think we let the moment get us a little bit too much there. Probably the end of Ohio State too, but for the most part, like there has been no drop off the cliff after losing to Ohio State this month, which you could have seen.
Well, Michigan State never loses their composure, right? They never have any issues in
we're not allowed to talk about.
I was gonna
ongoing
say
legal.
we can Michigan State and Penn State can unite over their scuffles in the tunnel at Michigan.
Well,
we're going to one tunnel this week.
At least we only threw a peanut butter sandwich. We didn't, commit assault or anything like that.
Allegedly. There's no video, unlike Michigan State. But so like I am a little worried about the ability to handle these emotions. And I think it ties into this whole matchup and not putting ourselves in a situation where we have to try to overcome, that talent gap. I went back just out of curiosity and looked the last 3 senior days. So 2018 against Maryland, 2019 against Rutgers, obviously 2020, there wasn't a senior day with fans, and then 2021 against Rutgers. 17 points, 7 points, and 7 points in the first half. Then 2017, we put up 28 points in the first half, and then we almost blew a 28-10 lead against Nebraska. So it's something about these last home games where we just struggle, I guess it seems like it's an emotional kind of thing. So, and again, I don't think we need to go down the long winding road of this Michigan State series and how some of those games have played out over the last 5 to 10 years. But yeah, it's going to be interesting from that standpoint. Hopefully there's no 3-hour snow delays.
Yeah. So how do you guys, since you mentioned senior day, Matt, what kind of response do you think Clifford gets? I'd assume like the guy or hate the guy, you have to give him the respect. He's put a lot of time into this program. He's led the program well off the field. There's never, you see a lot of things about stuff he does off the field with charities and things like that. Like he's never done anything to represent Penn State in a bad way. So I would hope he gets a nice respectful ovation.
I'm going to. I don't necessarily think that that's the way. You're going to hear boos. You're definitely going to hear boos. I think the students are going to. I do. I think
Kyle could be our test dummy here. Kyle, as a known Clifford hater, what is your response?
Listen, I've never hated Clifford. I just always I thought for the season a lot was better. That's all I said.
Play.
All right.
I'll cheer for Clifford. He's done a lot for this program. He's earned, like Trent said, he's not done anything to this program to lead us in a bad way. So I'll cheer for him for sure.
Yeah, I do think, and honestly, Matt, you might get some sarcastic cheers from the students and such that like
I'll start
hearing that it's
my beginning cheer. My beginning cheer will be like for real, and then I'll start be like think about it more. It'll be maybe a little sarcastic, but that's here nor there.
I don't know if you'll get boos. I think you'll get cheers, and then the people who don't care for Clifford at all just won't do anything. I don't think they'll boo, in my opinion.
I think like Clifford obviously is the epitome of it all, but I think with the senior class in general, like you just have to give them props for what they did. Like getting us through COVID is the most challenging time since 2012. Like I think people have just been so quick to forget about how disastrous COVID was for so many programs across the country. So the seniors definitely deserve this round of ovation this week.
It was. I think you could argue that we were on that list of the programs that took it worse than a lot of others. Like we did not handle that well.
Nope.
But that's hashing out old items. But yeah, I think senior day, the Clifford one's going to be the most exciting. To see what kind of response he gets. I'm excited to see that. The weather this weekend. We're going to get into our first truly cold game as fans, at least. I know it was pretty cold this last week.
What do you mean? Last game was pretty cold.
Well,
it wasn't cold.
It was
cold.
Guys,
it wasn't
not
cold,
like it's going to be now.
Listen, it wasn't cold truly cold until that fourth quarter. I thought
That's
when it was raining,
though.
when it was raining sideways and the wind was felt like it was like 25 miles an hour.
It's going to be like real feel in the 30s this game. We did not have that at all this season.
I have up on the weather channel here. So we got during the day 42 degrees, 10 to 20 mile per hour winds, chance of rain 50%. So maybe possibly some snow depending on when, how the transitions during the day, and then nighttime 32 degrees, 10 to 15 mile per hour winds. So
yeah, I mean, it's a 4:00 kickoff. Like
the
we
Michelin
have
man,
not
the
had a
Michelin man
game
will be
that's-
out. The Michelin man will be in full effect this weekend.
It's been cold the last couple of weeks. I don't know
No,
what
it
you guys
has
are
not.
talking about.
It has not.
Oh,
I have not had to wear a winter coat into the stadium yet. All my attire has been a rain jacket or a sweatshirt.
All I
Aren't
know
you
is
special?
come hell or high water, Matt's bringing out the fire pit as soon as he gets there.
Well, I mean, with a 4:00 game, we might not roll until like 2:00. This is
Oh.
ridiculous.
Matt, you are so old.
Yeah.
Matt cried so hard. I was so excited to see a 4:00 game for this week. I don't know about you guys. I know how Matt feels, but that Ohio State Michigan game is, regardless, it's noon every year, and it's a great rivalry. Like, it's not only relevant to us as Penn State fans this year with our, trying to get to a New Year's Six Bowl, or in past years, it's relevant when we're trying to go to the Big Ten Championship. But I like being able to watch that game at noon and then go into our game. I love that so much more than trying to check that score in Beaver Stadium as we're playing at the same time.
My favorite part was in 2016 when we were all watching the Michigan Ohio State game, and then we're all checking our phones in the student section because we had to go and get our good seats, and we're all trying to figure out what's going on. Then randomly, I think Penn State was losing to Michigan State at that point, and we started like cheering randomly. And obviously, Ohio State beat Michigan. The rest is history. But
I was gonna say that's the last time that we've played a game. We've had that game depend on our chances to go to the Big Ten title game. But
yeah, but it's still, as a college football fan, it's still one of the best games all year to that you could look forward to. As a fan of college football, those rivalry games are awesome to watch, and that's one of the biggest ones.
still like my new kicks. But anyway, let's talk. Let's talk about this game a little bit. So Michigan State, it's very odd in that their offense is pretty much a complete flip from last year. I mean, obviously everyone remembers Kenneth Walker and how dominant they were on the ground. This year, pretty much the opposite. They're 105th in rushing, but 55th in passing. Peyton Thorne hasn't done that poor of a job this year. 2,400 yards, 63% completion percentage, 18 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I think, honestly, obviously, Ohio State has the best receiving core in the country, but this is probably, outside of Ohio State, the best deep threat duo that we've seen so far. Keon Coleman and Jaden Reed, both, when you look at PFF scores, are like elite in passes of over the 20 yards, 98 and 97 scores. Like, Coleman has 5 touchdowns on those passes. Reed has 3 touchdowns on them. Like, and it's curious to see. I don't know what you guys think. I don't think we're going to see Joey Porter Jr. this week. So, normally you can count on one side of the field being locked down. I have confidence in our cornerbacks and our secondary, but it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah. What makes me feel a little bit better about this game is I do trust our defense. And I would argue, like Matt just mentioned, like their deep threat, I think, plays well into our strengths. Obviously, Joey Porter being out doesn't help matters, but I mean, we've done a really good job mitigating him being out with some guys stepping in there. Dixon has played well, so I'm not super worried about that. My bigger concern this week is more offensively coming out, and if our offense looks like it did in that first quarter against Rutgers, I think we get into an ugly game where I'm not worried about our defense putting up points, but if our offense can't put up points, we're not going to have another game where we have 3 non-offensive touchdowns. So we can't be depending on that. We are not Iowa. It was fun to pretend like we were, but we're not.
I didn't have fun pretending we were Iowa.
Mhm.
I thought it was a little miserable.
I did.
That's because Coco's just watching to get Drew in the game. That's all he cares about at this point.
I mean, if you want to go and beat this team 13-10, I would beat Minnesota this past weekend, by all means, I guess we can play like that and see how much fun we have doing it if you want.
Well, I think the thing is, and we've talked about this multiple times this year, this defense does impeccably well when it faces a one-dimensional team. And I think it's pretty safe to say that Michigan State is a one-dimensional team. So I don't think we're going to see the dominant performance that we have the last 3 weeks, but I do think that we're going to be able to shut them down fairly well.
Well, I think the way we can help our secondary out, obviously we're banged up with Joey Porter out. The way we've been helping them is putting our ears back in the front seven and getting after it. Like the best coverage in your secondary is getting a good pass rush, making the quarterback uncomfortable back there. So if we can do that, like we have been the past few weeks, I mean, I think we'll clean up shop like we have been.
Yeah. The one counter I will throw to that is Peyton Thorne is actually pretty good under pressure. He's probably one of the better quarterbacks that we faced all year in those situations. So if you're gonna go after him, you better get home. But
we'll send Abdul back there. He'll take care of him.
Yeah, if you're gonna go after him with anybody, might as well. Then offensively, I mean, again, it's the same kind of thing with Michigan State, where they're just, lower tier, not lower third, but lower, 2/3 of the country. 85th in passing yards per game, 100 in rushing yards per game. I think we're just going to see a ton of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen again. I don't see why we wouldn't. It's been working so far this month, so just keep doing it.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I think we've had a pretty balanced, I think we've had a nice balanced attack this season in most games where we're throwing the ball, we're running the ball pretty equivalent. And I think we'll continue to see that. I mean, it's something that we were looking forward to, hopefully that we could do this season, because the past few seasons we haven't been able to have a balanced attack. So it's nice to be able to have both of our passing game and running game shine at different moments throughout the season.
Yeah, I would like to see a little bit more of the pass this week, just because, I mean, if you remember last year, Michigan State was like the worst pass defense in the country. Like if they weren't the worst, they were like second worst. But they've done a lot better. But I still think, given Parker Washington's probably going to be out for the year, it's a chance to get some of these younger guys, some good development going into the bowl game where you get 15 extra practices. Like I think there's a lot of value there. But at the same time, again, like I said, I think you're just going to see Katron Allen and Nick Singleton just pound the rock. So anything else?
Yeah,
that's all we got for Michigan State.
We should win this game. I don't think it's gonna be as big of a blowout as the past 2 weeks have been, but I still think we win handily this game.
Well, take it away, Coco. Pick your play. We'll see how handily we think it's going to be.
Jump into this here. So we're favored by 17.5 this weekend. Michigan State coming to town. Getting to score predictions. When do you want to lead us off here?
Oh yeah, totally. You said 17.5. I got us I'm gonna go 45 to 14. I'll go 45-14.
All right. Matt.
41-13.
Jeez, big games here, big blowouts here.
Well, I'm just predicting that you can get your Drew time.
I love my Drew time.
I truly think we're just gonna put it to him. I mean, we've been crushing it since Michigan, so
I think 35-13. I think it's
averaging 41 points a game the last 5 games.
I think 35-13. I think it's going to be ugly weather up first, and then we did it like with Maryland. We just give me a little slower start, and then we just go for it.
And Manny doesn't make predictions.
I'm taking Michigan State to cover. These end of the year games, as Matt sort of mentioned, they always just have that funny feeling to them. The student section is going to be empty, and I think that's going to play a part. I think the crowd as a whole is going to be like a couple days after Thanksgiving. I don't think it's going to be a great crowd. We know the student section isn't going to fill up near to 50% with the break. So I just think that's going to result in one of them environments where we don't play well. I do think we win, but I think it's going to be a close game.
Well, Trent, you don't give a score prediction. The over-under for the game is 53.5. So do you go over-under for that?
Yeah, so I'm thinking that if it's going to be a close game, it's going to have to be under, because I don't think our defense puts up much trouble with Michigan State. I think it's more so getting our offensive production moving. So I think the under.
Yeah, with my score prediction, I have us going under. I believe Matt and Winnie are both over for this game, looks like. All right. The game we were talking about a little earlier, we got Michigan, Ohio State. Winner goes on to represent the Big Ten East, which I think is still, Matt said this numerous times, Big Ten's awful with this current Big Ten championship format where, let's be honest, Michigan and Ohio State should be playing this week and next week for the Big Ten title.
Nothing like having 3 teams in a division that have a combined 2 losses, and by the time you get to conference championship, we'll have a combined 3 losses, and yet only one of them gets to go to the conference championship. But anyway,
For all the shit we given Iowa this year, they're probably going to win the Big Ten West this week. So I can't wait to watch Michigan or Ohio State beat them like 45-7. But that's here nor there. Ohio State's favored by 8.5 at home. Trent, what do you got for that one?
Yeah, I like Ohio State to cover.
Ohio State, Matt.
yep, Ohio State. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before we started this. Blake Corum, I don't know if Blake Corum's going to play. If they do, if he doesn't, that Michigan offense is not the same without him. And again, we talked about our weather, looked at the weather for that game. It looks like it's going to be a pretty nice day out in Columbus, and that Ohio State offense should be moving. So I think Ohio State's going to cover.
Winnie.
I actually got Michigan to cover. Matt kind of hinted on Michigan's offense being a little vulnerable. I think Ohio State's been a little vulnerable at times. I think it'll be a close battle within one score. So
I really want to take Michigan, but I just think that I think last year was like the 1 year Michigan had to beat Ohio State and they did it. But I think now it's going to go back, reset back to default, and Ohio State just wins these big rivalry games against Michigan. Let's see, Ohio State there. South Carolina, Clemson. The over under for that game is 51. I think Clemson was favored 2 scores. I'll get the exact line here, but as we know, South Carolina beat Tennessee this past week, just hammered them by like 25 or 30, wherever the hell it was. So, Trent, what do you got for that one? Over under 51.
Yeah, I mean, if Spencer Rattler and South Carolina look anything like they did this past weekend, the over. Didn't Spencer Rattler have like 6 touchdowns himself this past weekend?
Hey, you did.
Yeah, against the worst pass defense in the country, the absolute worst.
They were the number 1 team in the nation at one point, Matt.
Clemson's 14.5. Clemson's 14.5 point favorites. If that makes a difference for your pick.
Yeah, I like the over.
Winnie.
Clemson, but you know me, Kyle, with my
I'm about to say I already put over in your little block here because I knew you're going to pick the over because you always pick overs.
I should have switched it up, but I'll take the over just because of you.
I know you, Winnie.
Kyle, you could have just threw out a line of like 85 this week. He wouldn't have known the difference and would have took the over. He was like, you never know.
Kyle didn't even go over the results, did he, of last week?
No, I'll do that.
I think for Coco's sake, we don't want to go over the over because he's going to have to admit to some more issues. So I think we'll get it sorted out internally and then we'll bring it back at the end of the year.
Matt, what do you got?
I'm taking the under. I think this is kind of everyone's going to be hammering the over because you saw South Carolina put 65 up on Tennessee last night. Was it 65? I don't remember. But Clemson's defense is so much better than Tennessee's pass defense. So I think it's going to be under.
63 is in my head for some reason.
Yeah, I think it was 63.
Close enough.
It was a lot of points. I'm taking the over here. I think that South Carolina, they have things rolling right now, and I just want to see Clemson go down. So, well, one more regular game and then one Cocoa Sportsbook game. You got Notre Dame going to USC. USC is in the driver's seat to represent them in the Pac-12 championship. USC is favored by 5.5. So, Matt, you want to lead us off for that one?
Yeah, I got USC. I mean, Caleb Williams is playing really good right now. I mean, Notre Dame has turned it around after losing to Marshall and Stanford. I'm never going to miss an opportunity to throw out that Notre Dame lost to Marshall and Stanford. But I just don't see them being able to slow down that offense enough to make a difference here. So
I don't know. Notre Dame has turned stuff around since that Marshall game. I think that was their 3rd loss of the season. But they've been turning everything around and playing like they were preseason top 5 team, and they're starting to look like it a little bit. So this is also kind of a chaos play. I just want to see USC lose. Just think it'll be funny. So I'm just gonna take Notre Dame.
I'm taking Notre Dame as well. I think Notre Dame, as we all just said, has turned it around for the past few games for sure, near the end of the season. But Notre Dame always just has that one game where they pull it out at the end, and it's like, how did they do that? Like, they had no business winning that game, and they win that game. They always have those games on the big stage. I think they're going to get it this weekend.
Winnie?
I'm actually going to go with USC. I'm going to take the opposite of what Trent's saying. I think it's just not Notre Dame's year, and they're going to finish flat.
All right, so that's all of our regular games here. One quick
I don't say
Coco
the
game.
luck of the Irish for nothing, Winnie.
Hey, good
One
thing I'm
quick
Italian.
Winnie's just going with that SoCal hairstyle he's got going on right now.
Thanks for the shout out, man.
He's the shaved little dirt stash he got going on.
Oh,
Ah.
I didn't put Rogaine on my face like you, Kyle.
Trent can't even grow facial hair. A little
Oh,
bit,
man.
little baby
bet-
face down there.
It's better that way.
Little shiny rosy cheeks. But
Yeah. So does Drew Alar, Kyle. He's
Yeah,
your
Yeah.
God and Savior.
yeah.
well,
He's
that's why
your sweetheart.
that's why we lived together for all these years. I love those rosy cheeks.
Trent Hour right there.
Saying the quiet part out loud now. We got Penn State over under 2.5 passing touchdowns. Past few which our running game's been outstanding, but do we get over under 2.5 passing touchdowns against Michigan State, who has a lackluster secondary? So, Matt, want to lead us off for that one?
No, we don't. I think they have a lackluster secondary, but their worst run defense. We're going to hammer it on the ground, and we're going to get up early, I think, and that's going to be conducive to not throwing the ball. So,
Trent?
no.
Yeah, I'm going with Matt here. I think two is going to be the number. I'll go under.
Winnie?
I usually like over, but I think that is a little steep with the 2.5. If you would have came in at 1.5, I would have been about it. But
Screw it, I'll go over. Why not? I was gonna pick under, but screw it. Why not? I'll go over.
Coco Sportsbook liable. We'll probably have 5 this week.
yeah,
If they're
Isn't everyone's our aggregate is still worse in Coco Sportsbook games?
if there's anyone that can figure out how to throw a half
How's that
touchdown
possible?
pass,
We
it's
only have
Drew Lohr.
11 losses.
No, we're up to 100, we're up to 119 now. So, but if we would do it,
Wow. We went from
That's what-
11 losses to 119.
I know
in
we
1 week.
had a bad week. If we want to go real quick here,
Hey,
I'm
That's
42.
what the
20
Excel formula says.
I'm 42, 28 and 2. Matt's 41, 29 and 2. Winnie 40, 30 and 2.
Oh.
Trent 38, 32 and 2.
I love how Kyle
Well,
keeps gaining all these.
Yeah,
dubs.
and it's funny how like 3 weeks later, oh yeah, actually Matt, you didn't get that one win, so I'm gonna take it away from you. And yeah, it's
Listen, I did the due diligence. Look back.
Yeah,
I
it's what the
messed,
formula said.
I messed
Yeah.
up Winnie. No, that was user error. I messed up. I put a win for Winnie that should have went to Matt, and Winnie got a loss that should have went to Matt. So Winnie's happy with the result though.
Yeah.
Winnie will take that. It benefits him.
Coco's over here tallying results like Arizona's counting votes. So it's 4 weeks later, we still don't know who won, and the numbers are changing left and right. So all right, we going on the last call. Since I think
Let's do it.
I think 3 of us had the same last call. Why don't we just open it up to a little bit of a discussion? So do you think, I'll phrase it this way. Do you think the momentum that we have right now entices any of the players that may be draft eligible that we're possibly thinking of jumping this year to come back?
Yes, I do. I do think when you finish out in a strong note like we are, and hopefully do, I do think there's some players that are like, I want to come back. I think this team might have something special next year. And a side note, not in the question, but I think it helps the transfer portal a ton too.
I think it's dependent on one thing, especially offensively. Like how much do they believe in Drew to be the guy, right? It's not like Clifford's coming back next year and you could say, okay, I got Clifford again. At least we know we got. Like how much do they believe in Drew? If you're a receiver or you're a tight end, you say, okay, this guy's gonna, put me in a position where I'm gonna look even better than I did this year, if not the same, to boost my potential draft stock. Or are you gonna, almost say I'm nervous with what he is and I'm just gonna go and take my chance in the draft?
Yeah. And I think it's very player specific. I mean, if someone's a first round
again
potential,
offensively, talking.
Yeah, if someone's a first round potential, I think it's hard to say like risk coming back for an injury when you're a top tier draft prospect already. But if you are like a lower tier draft prospect, I could see you coming back with the momentum that we have.
Yeah, I think if all these AFL analysts say, oh yeah, we project you to be a first through third round draft pick, I don't think they'll come. Like any player would probably come back again, depending on like when he said if they're comfortable with the offense next year, if they're comfortable with all that, then stick it out for one more year, maybe upgrade that draft stock to a first, second round pick. But again, it's a crapshoot with these. You know, they have Will Levis being a first round draft pick, so
Yes.
He's playing very well. Yeah, I
Very
lost
well.
Andy. So I think it's like, well, honestly, I even think the injuries play into it. Like Joey Porter's gone. Like, yeah, I don't think there's any chance of him coming back. I honestly think if Parker Washington's out for the year, I think that might actually increase the likelihood he comes back, because the Ohio State game, he did really, really well, but he hasn't had too many of those games this year where you're like, wow, that's a true wide receiver one kind of performance. So that might play into it. Olu, depending on what the injury is, that could bode well for him coming back. Only having 7 or 8 games on film, that could potentially make a difference. And then I think if I'm
I don't
looking
think
at,
he's come back.
I mean, if he's potential first round, but you don't there's not a lot of tape. There's not a lot of tape. Then the only other one that I could think of in that swing is like Curtis Jacobs too, and I think he might come back.
Yeah.
Sorry, Coco. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think it'll be fun. Maybe in another episode we can go in more depth and just make our picks, like back or not or something like that. We can just see what we think is gonna happen, or what, not just what we hope is gonna happen, what we actually think is gonna happen.
Odds are, with the way college football goes, by the time we're recording this next week, we might actually know a lot of these decisions come out, somewhat quickly right after the season's over. But does anyone else have a last call question that we didn't just wrap up there?
I have one here. Like I mentioned earlier, we play Michigan State for the Land Grant Trophy. It's one of the ugliest trophies. I have all these unique trophies that college football has. We just have like it looks like a 7th grade woodshop class put together. But my question for you guys is, out of all these great trophy games and great rivalries in college football, what's your favorite trophy in college football?
After watching College Game Day this week, and that trophy between the Montanas up there, it's like 300 some pounds. They need like 8 people to lift it. That might have just took the lead for me. Thing is awesome.
Brawl the Wild.
I'm gonna be a homer. I'm gonna go with the Land Grant Trophy. We find beauty in its ugliness.
The Land Grant, honestly, it's so bad, it's good.
Yeah,
it's a Big Ten trophy. It just looks ugly, but that's what makes it beautiful.
We say the same thing about this show. It's so bad, it's good.
I mean, I'll have to see if I can find the video of me and Aaron at our apartment in college after beating Michigan State. We lifted up our end table and put the Lion Shrine on top of it. We're calling it the Land Grant Trophy.
It probably looked better, but mine it has to be Paul Bunyan's axe. I mean, let's make a chalk pick here. You play for a damn axe. I think it looks cool. So
Kyle says that as the proud owner of an axe that he's never once used.
Log splitter.
That is a log splitter, yeah. But wasn't in context.
I want to know if Winnie knows any.
Mine would be the
other than our
national
game
championship trophy that I hope we attain next year.
I want to know if Winnie knows any actual like trophy games in college football. I'm curious.
Well, I'm gonna let your curiosity build then.
My favorite's actually the lump of coal played between Pottsville and Reading each year.
I also like the egg. I like the Egg Bowl. They call it the egg. It's pretty funny.
My turn.
Yeah.
Oh, is there actually people with? Okay, so now it's just you and I guess that had that.
Yeah, your question had nothing to do with my question. So we have the big one this weekend, Michigan and Ohio State. We discussed our whole season. Everyone has been discussing how we just can never get over the hump and beat either of those two. Right now, today, do any of you think we beat either Michigan or Ohio State next year? And if so, which one?
I'm saying Michigan because it's at home.
Yeah, that's probably the safe play, but I mean, I think Ohio State does have a lot of turnover coming next year. I think if
they're gonna reload the shotgun.
Yeah, but there's a certain level of experience that comes into winning those tight games.
They had their 3rd string running back play this game, and he looked like he's gonna be a 1st round draft pick. And
it's awesome. It's also Maryland. So
I think we can win both. I really do. I'm optimistic. I'm overly optimistic, and these guys.
That'll be.
I hope we can cut this for next year, and I hope I'm right. And it's gonna suck if I'm wrong, but I do believe it to a degree, right? I mean, if we're saying some of these guys do come back, and you can only imagine the running backs are going to get even better, stronger, faster. Hopefully, Drew takes another step forward. The line will hopefully be healthy. I mean, I don't know. If you think if things kind of go in our direction, I definitely think we have a chance.
Now, is that you
I-
talking or the flow talking right now? What's the
Well, I'm going with the flow, so it's
Yeah.
probably the flow talking.
So real quick, I'll say I do think we get Michigan next year. I don't think we get Ohio State. Being at Ohio State, Ohio State just finds ways to beat us. But that Michigan game, that should be the game that is in the locker room. That score should be hanging everywhere all off season. Redemption game next year at home, Beaver Stadium should be an insane game. I think we get them.
the only
Gonna
thing?
be.
'Cause CJ Stroud, he's draft eligible this year, right?
Yeah, I think like if that's what I'm saying. If you've listened to college football media for like the last 2 years or so, you've heard people say that 2023 is potentially the year that someone could get Ohio State in the Big Ten. So we'll see.
Whoever their 5-star quarterback in the waiting is, he'll chalk us up for some big plays probably. So just insert name here, and that guy will beat us. So
As long as it's not.
And
Right now I
again,
got
it's just
Stroud
that
ranked 2.
that game
Draft.
being at the Horseshoe is a huge difference in that series.
Terrible venue, but all right, I'm cutting this because we are 4 minutes away from Yellowstone, so I'm gonna help you folks that
And,
are ready to cut off.
Can't wait to
Kyle,
see.
Kyle, one more
Can't
thing.
wait to see Kirk Herbstreit featured on it tonight after his game day outfit.
Kyle, we barely snuck by, but
9-1 birds or 9-1 birds.
Birds.
Go
Now,
birds.
let's throw in the news that everyone actually cares about. Penn State basketball won 68-56 as we are here live, so we're moving on up. Maybe crack the top 25. So, all right, until one final time for the 2022 regular season. Make sure to follow us on our socials for all the Michigan State and bowl coverage action. And we are Tailgate Talk.